Hello. Welcome back to 9 Little Aussies. My name is Chrissy and I'm in my kitchen today, my little farm kitchen. If you are new here, welcome. It's so good to have you with us. I am the mum in this 9 Little Aussies, and my husband and I moved here from Australia with our 7 children. I cannot believe this, 2 years ago. I don't know where those 2 years went. They have disappeared in a flash. But we are here with family. My husband is American. All the children are dual citizens. I had to immigrate, but he did live most of his life in Australia. It's all the children have ever known is Australia. So we are here to be near his family, and we're loving it. It's great. It is a big adjustment. So what I do here on my little channel is just documenting our journey of moving to a new land and growing our own food in that new land as we navigate all the things that are so very different. Today, I've separated some cream earlier today, and I'm going to make some butter. I did do a video maybe a few weeks ago, however long ago that was, of making butter, and last time I used my KitchenAid, which was very messy, especially because the cover has a crack in it, and so yeah, that ended up being quite a messy situation. It worked, and you can do it, but I have a food processor that someone suggested I use that. When I made butter in Australia, I had a Thermomix, which I don't think you can get them here, but it's like everything is fully sealed, and it was so easy. So I'm going to try it in this today, and we will see how we go. And then I'm going to make my coffee with you. I had somebody ask about bulletproof coffee, which might seem funny when I am separating. I'm dealing with cream. Okay, so the backstory to that is I am currently doing Whole30 for this period of 30 days. It wasn't like first of the month to the end of the month. It was just whenever I started it. I'm almost 2 weeks in, and I was commenting the other day that I think one of the hardest things has been not having cream in my coffee. Now, strictly speaking, I should be using ghee for it to be 100% Whole30 approved. I'm not doing that. I am using a tiny bit of butter and some, I forget what you call it, MCT oil, which is coconut oil that has, I think they call it, it's been fractionated. I think that's the word. Anyway, it does not solidify. It stays liquid, and it doesn't really taste coconutty. It has a tiny little taste, but not much. So if I was being 100% Whole30, I would be using that and ghee, which is clarified butter. But I have budgetary restraints that are a real thing. So ghee is quite expensive where I live anyway, and I just can't justify that at the moment. So my compromise is I'm using a teeny tiny bit of butter, and I'm using MCT oil in my coffee. I'll show you in a little bit. Okay, first thing we're going to do is pour the cream from our beautiful Jersey cow, Matilda, I've just collected it for a few days. I'm pouring it into this, and we'll turn it on and see what we can whiz up. I may just do one actually, because it may increase exponentially. We'll start with one. Oh, it might help if I plug it in, hey? That always helps. That's pretty full, so I'm glad I only did one quart. Now this is actually probably going to take a while. I just realized I made the same mistake that I made last time, which is it will turn to butter much quicker if your cream is at room temperature and if it's not super fresh cream, which this is not super fresh. It's a couple of days old, but still it would definitely be quicker if I'd have taken it out earlier and let it get to room temperature. That's okay, it'll still work, it just might take a bit longer. It's starting to get a lot thicker. It's hard to see, but you can hear it. It's kind of making a different sound now. Okay, so we're just gonna take a look, but you can see, hang on, I need to get a spoon. You can see it's getting really thick now, but we're just gonna stir it off the edges and turn it back on. Okay, we're really starting to get thick here now. And it is turning from sort of smooth and glossy to a more yellowish sort of rough texture, which is just the next step. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't turn that off. It turned itself off. I think this has a safety feature where after so many minutes, it will, I haven't been timing it, but it feels like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, it turns itself off. So, but this can take us a while. So it's becoming slightly yellow and the buttermilk is starting to pull away from the butter fat, and you can see the real change in consistency. Look, we've got butter. Give it a tiny bit more. Oh yeah. You can really see here the butter fat and the buttermilk really starting to differentiate. Okay, we're done. Now pull this off. All right, so I've got this Pyrex jug, a strainer. Now, one of the features actually that I do not like about this food processor, it's really good. I've used it for a lot of different things and it's great, but it's not great to pour out of. So I am going to, hopefully, I'm going to try not to make a mess. And I'm going to take this blade out so it doesn't make a mess. Right, here we go. So we're going to have buttermilk go down in here and the butter fat, which is going to be our butter, stay up there. And pull all this out. So a little bit left on the sides. Okay, so we have all of our lovely butter. I'm going to give it a gentle squeeze and then we're going to put it in some iced water. I'm going to save that buttermilk. That'll be lovely for baking. And we're going to tip this butter into the iced water. Okay, so this was just water with ice cubes, filtered water. And I'm just going to squeeze it and put it in the water. And the ice water is actually really cold. Will help it to not melt as I squeeze out. Find a few little floaty bits. And break it out and move it around a bit. Pull it apart, squeeze it. I'm just letting it scrunch through my fingers. Oh my goodness, it's so cold. Whew. Cold, cold, cold. Okay, so I've just put some fresh cold water in. I've got tipped out that, and oh, this isn't as quite as icy as the other one was. And get some ice cubes into it. But this is running fairly clear now, so I think we're good. Okay, so you can see that the butter, I've put fresh water in, drained out that. So this is our buttermilk that I'll use in baking. And this is the second lot of iced water that I've had it in. And it's really running pretty clear, which is just an indicator that we've got, you know, the vast majority of the buttermilk out, which is what we want. So now I'm going to put it in a bowl and salt it. I'm just going to put in just a bit less than about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I guess it is. And I'll put that in. Put that in, and I'm going to stir it around with this little wooden spoon. All right, so I'm just going to turn that over if I can without it getting stuck. Pat it down, turn it over, pat it down, turn it over, pat it down. Might just need to help. Look how yellow and beautiful that butter is. Oh my word. That looks so good. The butter in the store here does not look like this. It's really pale and white, the butter here. But even the butter in Australia, which is a lot more yellow than the butter here, it still does not compare to freshly made butter from fresh from the cow. Cream fresh from the cow, made into butter. There is just nothing to compare. Nothing store-bought to compare, no matter what country you're in. But it is interesting. I don't know why the butter is so much more white here than it is in Australia. The butter in Australia is very yellow. And the cheese is a different color as well. I don't know if I've told you guys that before, but the cheese is a very different. The cheese here is kind of orangey looking, whereas in Australia it's more like butter color, or even lighter than that. All right, so my aim here is just to mix this salt in, which we're nearly done, I think. And if I was preserving this salt, it's not going to last very long, but if I was preserving this salt, I would do a higher concentration of butter if I was going to attempt to keep it in the fridge or the freezer for longer. Oh my goodness. Look at this, would you? This is where he stays when he's inside. Just on my foot. Neo, what are you doing? Neo, what you doing, buddy? Sit down. Oh, I know. Sit down. Yes, not happy unless he's on my foot. Okay, so now we have our beautiful butter made, and I can show you my bulletproof coffee that is not quite Whole30 approved, almost. Okay, put that over there for a second. Okay, so anyone who knows me knows that I love coffee. I love coffee in a snobby kind of only organic, extra pure goodness kind of coffee. Although I have to say that's not maybe I need to redo that. I need to rephrase that, because I have what I would ideally like to buy as far as coffee, which is a little bit out of reach in our budget right now, but I still do make sure that I buy organic whole coffee beans and grind them myself. And the reason I actually started doing that was not any kind of snobbery, it was actually health reasons, because I found that if I didn't drink organic coffee, my body did not like it at all. I would get very, very shaky. And I know some people get that from coffee in general, but for me personally, if I drink organic coffee, I mean, I think I would get like that if I had too much, but if I drink organic coffee, my body handles it just fine. But the minute I go back to cheap non-organic coffee, there must be something in the processing of it and the use of the chemicals. I don't really know. All I know is my body handles it really well if it's organic, and if it's not, there's something there that my body just will not tolerate. So all that to say, I love coffee. I'm actually I also love tea. I'm really sort of a coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon person, generally speaking, although I break that rule occasionally. But generally I have 1 to 2 cups of coffee a day, and lately this is how I've been doing it. So I have my little AeroPress here. Boil my kettle. Let's see. I would love one day to get a hand cranked coffee grinder. This is just one I found when we first moved here. And I'll get a couple of scoops of coffee beans. I like a light to medium roast, but I'm not super fussy with that. Okay, I'll grind this up. I do like it to be a fairly fine grind, so that's why I keep it going for a while. And then I spoon it into my AeroPress, which I have been using. Actually, I didn't have one of these in Australia. Our friends did. I got this when we first arrived because an AeroPress makes a beautiful espresso coffee, and it's just so lightweight and easy to take with you wherever you're going. And when we were first here, we were in an Airbnb for 6 weeks and didn't know where we were going, and I wanted good coffee, so that was the solution we came up with. Okay. Oh, and look, this is my little spoon so if you've been here a while, you know that we came with 16 suitcases, jumped on an airplane, that's it, that's all we had. And so I couldn't fit very much because, you know, that's 16 suitcases between 9 people with all of our belongings. Didn't leave a lot of space for things that were just sentimental. So I did fit a few little ones in, like this spoon. So every time I look at it, I think about home. It was mine when I was a baby, I think. So I'm using it now to get my coffee grinds out and put them in the top of this AeroPress. It's not the quickest way to make coffee, and it is kind of a ritual, I suppose, that I go through. I'm standing here doing all these little bits and pieces to get my coffee, but oh, it's worth it. Okay, so our kettle, I'll boil the kettle. Interesting, a lot of people here don't have kettles. I've noticed that. Most people have kettles in Australia. We had 1 or 2 friends that didn't, and that was an oddity because generally people drink tea, hot tea and coffee, and so just about everybody has a kettle, but not so here. But anyway, they do still sell them here, thankfully, because we really like our kettle. So I will boil that and this is one of those fancy digital ones that tells me the temperature, but I want it just below boiling, so I don't let it go all the way. I turn it off at about 180 Fahrenheit. I don't even know what in the world is that in Celsius, but just below boiling, not quite boiling. While that boils, I'm going to pour my buttermilk into a quart jar and label it. And I may use that in some scones for the kids, buttermilk scones, or so you guys would make biscuits and gravy. Nini makes biscuits and gravy. I've made them a few times too, which is very similar to a scone, a little bit different, but they're good in that. Or bread, or lots of different things you can use buttermilk for, but it is pancakes. Buttermilk pancakes are lovely. But I'm just going to label it for now and put it in the fridge. That'll be close enough. So I stir that around. I'm going to let it sit for about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to plunge it through into my coffee mug. I'm also going to add a little dash of vanilla essence. This is vanilla essence that I made a year or so ago. I'm going to add a little bit of that, about a half teaspoon or so of butter, and a dash, which is probably, I don't know, a tablespoon or maybe a bit less, of the MCT oil into my cup with my shot of espresso. And then I'm gonna zhuzh, is that a word? I'm gonna zhuzh it up with my immersion blender and then top it up with hot water. And that's basically what I forgot what it's called, bulletproof. That's what my bulletproof coffee looks like. I almost forgot. I usually do finish boiling it before I top up the coffee. So you can see that is really frothy now, and I'll just top it up with hot water. Someone did suggest the other day when I was doing the those red chilies that, and I mentioned cayenne tincture, and one lady said she puts a little bit of cayenne tincture in her coffee because it does have fabulous health benefits. And I thought, well, that's really cool. I'm going to try that. So I'm not actually trying it today, but I do have some, and I'm going to give that a go. I used to make, and I had forgotten all about this. It's crazy how you do things for ages, and then, I don't know, life circumstances and things change, and you forget that you did it until something triggers it. So in Australia, a long time ago, I used to make hot chocolates and put like 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, like the dried pepper, cayenne pepper, in my hot chocolate. And my husband thought I was crazy, but I loved it. It actually wasn't overpowering. It wasn't too much. And so I would put just that tiny little bit of cayenne pepper. I'm trying to remember how I did it. I would put maple syrup, cocoa or cacao, and the hot water. And I think at that time, I can't remember if I was dairy or not dairy at that time. So one thing that I have over the years, I've done a lot of years of eating dairy free. And the reason for that was breastfeeding 7 babies and not a lot of times my babies could not handle dairy. And I would be really interested to know if I had the opportunity at the time to have raw dairy, whether that would have made the difference. But certainly it, you know, if it was a midwife, I'd had my second baby, Jared. He was a couple of months old, and I had really struggled to feed my first, to breastfeed my first. And I had struggled along, and ended up sort of supplementing him with formula, and he had a lot of health problems when he was little. He had a rough start. But when I had Jared, I was like, man, I really want to do this. Like, it was really important to me to figure it out, because I'm like, this is what we were made to do as women. We were made to feed our children. Our bodies were made to do this, and why isn't this working? So thankfully I got onto a fabulous midwife, and she was actually she was a lactation, the midwife put me onto a lactation consultant, but she was a specialist. She had a clinic down in Brisbane, and I went down and spent a whole day there with her, and she was fabulous. She had studied primitive cultures and how they fed their children, and she was actually a scientist before she specialized in lactation, and her knowledge was incredible. But she took one look at me feeding that baby. It was so life-changing for me as a mother to have this information, because she took one look at him feeding, and he would feed, and he wouldn't cry, but he was restless, and he would wriggle and squirm and grunt. And she said, that baby has severe gut pain. And that didn't occur to me because he wasn't crying. But my arm's getting tired. But anyway, she said to me, she said, it'll be an allergen of probably something you're eating. She said 9 times out of 10 it's milk or dairy, but sometimes it's other things. She said, just go home and go off for 3 days. And she gave me lots of other tips of things to help settle him that really used to be common knowledge that were handed down. She had studied Indian tribes here in America. She had studied Alaskan tribes and the Aboriginals in Australia, and lots of different nurturing, mothering techniques that for women and babies. She gave me so much information that just really completely changed the way I was mothering my babies. I was caring for them, nurturing them, and it just equipped me. It was so empowering. So it's something I'm really passionate about. So if it's kind of got nothing to do with homesteading, but kind of everything, because that was one of those catalysts for me of, man, maybe not everything I'm being told and this was just purely by, the medical system where I had my babies in hospital, and then the midwives tell you certain things, and I have no issue with midwives. Midwives are fantastic, and I've had incredibly good experiences with them, but they were medically trained, and they only knew what they knew. And this lady just handed me a gift that day with the information she gave me. And the dairy issue was just one little thing that came out of it, as well as a whole bunch of other things she taught me. But I went home and I went off dairy, and she said, and you need protein with every meal, and you need some good carbohydrate, even if it's just an apple. She said, if you go home, she said, you leave here right now, you go eat an apple, buy yourself a meat pie, because in Australia they're very easy to come by. I so miss meat pies. She said, buy yourself a meat pie, eat an apple, have a big drink of water. She said, you'll feel $1 million, and just stop eating dairy for 3 days and see what happens. So I went home and did that, and I am telling you, I had a different child. Instead of, I used to literally have to stand and feed him, standing up with holding onto him with his torso slightly twisted, and jiggle up and down for that poor thing to feed, because he was in pain. And I had a different baby. 3 days later, I had a different baby. He would snuggle in tight and lay still and suck hard for 30 minutes and then sleep for 3 hours. And I was like, holy cow. Like, how can one thing like that make such a big difference? But it did. And so, like, I get emotional about it because I think so many times we have what is good and right and natural and proper and the way things have been done for centuries stripped from us because we don't have the knowledge. And so that is something that just changed my parenting journey, and I'm really passionate about sharing. So because of that, there was many years where, because I had 7 children, I breastfed all of them until, like, I would be still feeding one and I'd fall pregnant with the next. And so I was breastfeeding for, I think we worked it out one time, 15 years straight before, because there was a little gap in between my first and second because I had so much trouble feeding him. But a lot of those years I was not eating dairy. So that's when I discovered bulletproof coffees. So anyway, how did I get on that rabbit trail? Anyway, maybe someone out there needs to hear that. I don't know. Any mamas watching? Yes. So a lot of years where I wasn't on dairy, and I actually believe that we were meant to consume dairy. The Bible talks about a land flowing with milk and honey, and they had cattle and goats, and that was very much a part of what they were promised as God's goodness, to his people. So I'm not for a minute suggesting that dairy is bad, but we do live with a very broken food system, and dairy today is not what it ought to be. And I really think that's a big part of it, as well as all of the other things we shove in our bodies that shouldn't be there, that complicate the issue, I am sure. So anyway, back to the coffee. The kettle is now boiled, and I will fill this up. Okay. It's frothy and creamy without being creamy. So look, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not the same as putting cream in your coffee, which fresh Jersey cream, a dollop of fresh Jersey cream in the top of your coffee is pretty close to divine. But this is actually really good, especially when I'm using homemade butter. And while I could tie myself up in knots about the fact that this is not Whole30, and I'm doing Whole30 right now, I'm not going to do that, because the whole point of doing Whole30 is to choose to step apart and not think about diet culture, and to just eat whole foods for this month and change my mindset and give my body a chance. And I will give you a little update on that actually. It's going really well. Like I said, the only challenging thing for me is eliminating the cream, and I've been able to do that. I really feel like the inflammation has gone down a lot in my body in general, particularly in my knees, my ankles, and my legs, and my wrists. I guess I must just have been holding a lot of inflammation in those areas. I still do have foot pain, which if you watch the first video about why I'm doing this in the first place, you can go back and watch that. The foot pain is still there, but it is not as intense. So, and I'm almost 2 weeks in. Tomorrow it'll be 2 weeks. So I feel like that's a really positive thing, and I'm feeling really good. And yeah, so anyway, I'm going to keep going and finish it with this slight adjustment of putting butter in my coffee for my bulletproof coffees. And that vanilla essence is really good in there as well. So good. In the morning, actually, I generally have about 2 coffees a day. I have one really early before I go and milk Matilda. And I generally don't put vanilla essence in that one, but I like to put it in my lunchtime coffee. And yeah, it just makes it feel a little bit more like a treat. It's very good. Okay, I'm just going to put the rest of this butter, so in one big piece, into this little container. Don't want to waste any of it. And I'll pop that in the fridge. My daughter just asked me, why is it called bulletproof coffee? I actually have no clue. I don't know. I think I do know you can buy bulletproof coffee beans. So whoever coined that phrase and came up with that, or at least whoever patented it or marketed it. But I don't actually know what the story is behind that. So I'm sorry. You will have to maybe look that up. But basically it's just using other fats, other sources of animal or plant fat for my coffee instead of just milk or cream, is really the essence of it at the end of the day. Interesting. All right, friends. Well, I am going to go and do some very boring non-homesteady things like laundry. So I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us here in my little farm kitchen on my 100 days of homesteading. I do hope you are enjoying it. Sunshine and raindrops, and I will see you tomorrow.